What's good guys, my name is Anthony and in today's video we're going to be doing the second episode of my Team Career Mode series. So if you do enjoy this video, make sure to give it a like at any given point and let's get straight into this one. So as you can see, we're looking at some of the development upgrades for the car, and I did get a little bit of advice from some of you guys. I do know that I'm going to have to work on getting as much acclaim as I possibly can during this My Team, and in addition to that I want to try and upgrade the durability as quickly as I can, just because you do suffer in that first season to do with durability, and we don't want to really be getting any setbacks because of durability, especially since our sponsor is to get 25 constructors points. So I want to try and get as quickly up the field as I can without getting any setbacks. And yeah, you could just see I'm just taking a look through some of the stuff now, and I'm about to change my team colors because I forgot to do it in the previous episode. So our team colors was red, black and white, I believe, when it's supposed to be blue, black and white. So we've done that, and now we're just taking a look at some of the activities that we're going to be doing. I'm assuming that activities are important to my team, but maybe let me know in the comment section if they're actually important to my team, like if you have to do them or if you can just skip them and they don't really affect your team in general too much. But yeah, you can see that one of the events that we could select to do was actually attend the F1 Esports event. So yes guys, the BA Racing team, yours truly, is going to go and meet Jan Otme at the F1 Esports event. And as you can see now, I believe Robert Schwartzman has some training to do in the simulator, and they were coming to me asking what he should sort of focus on or something like that. I think that's what's going on right now. I can't really see because the screen is too small. But yeah, as we move on to quali now, because we don't really want to mess with all that stuff for too long, you can see we're just doing a banker lap right now. And here, once again, similar to the first race at Bahrain, I wanted to just try and get that delta in, as Charles Leclerc actually does a 14.5, which is pretty quick. You know, 110% are rapid on this game, and you know, compared to F1 2020, it's actually kind of insane. And I do enjoy the challenge. It's just at certain tracks they're a little bit too overpowered, I would argue. Maybe it's just I'm not that quick, so maybe that's just the bias of me not being that quick coming in. But as you can see, we're coming up to the end of our banker lap now, and we end up doing a 1 minute 16.4, I believe. Yeah, so not necessarily the greatest time, but as I said, it's a banker, so I'm just trying to get you know, a time down. And on our second lap, you can see we go super wide here, and I'm so surprised that we didn't actually get an invalidation there. So I tried to continue, but this lap was terrible. I think we messed up at every single corner somehow. This corner, we actually take this corner all right. It's just the traction could have been a little bit better. And then moving on towards the end of the lap, now you can see even though we had a horrendous lap, we're still about a tenth and a half up on our time. So yeah, there's a lot of time we can find in this lap, and that's exactly what we're going to try and do in this final lap. So what I'm going to do is be a little bit quiet here for this lap and let you guys see a lap of Spain in the BA Racing car.
Just 30 seconds left in the session.
So as we come up to the final couple of corners now, this has been a much better lap than before, obviously. However, there's still a little bit of time left in this lap, I feel. So yeah, pretty interesting to see what we're going to get here. We cross it, well, that's it, we come up to the final corner, pretty good exit, across the line, and I believe it's P18 once again. So for the second race in a row, we'll be starting in P18, just behind our teammate Robert Schwartzman. And let's get straight into the race intro now.
Welcome along then to what promises to be another fascinating Spanish Grand Prix, a race which saw Max Verstappen win on his first ever appearance with the Red Bull team in 2016. This after the dramatic coming together of Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg on the first lap. Will we see more moments for the scrapbook here today? The Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya then, a high-speed 2.89-mile circuit which demands an efficient downforce package and bravery on the part of the driver, especially through the blind right of turn 9, which we might just see taken flat this weekend. Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. Lewis Hamilton lines up on pole position, and it's Valtteri Bottas that completes the front row. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Perez, Verstappen, Charles Leclerc and Norris, Ricciardo, Sainz, Gasly and Fernando Alonso, Vettel, Stroll, Esteban Ocon and Tsunoda, Raikkonen, Mick Schumacher, Robert Schwartzman and Anthony, Giovinazzi, Mazepin, Latifi and George Russell ends our grid lineup. That's it then, it's time to go racing as we head to trackside for today's race.
So moving on to the actual race strategy now, and you can see that we're going to be doing the mediums to hards, and that's because Spain is a very technical circuit, a lot of high speed corners, it's not as tyre friendly, so that means we do want to be using the harder compound of tyres. And once again, the fuel mix is something that I've really struggled with on this game, so I'll try and figure that out. But as we've got 5 red lights, and away we go, and the lights went off so quickly that I wasn't really expecting it, and it did catch us off guard. And you may notice in the bottom left hand side of the screen that I am talking but you can't hear me, and that's because I did mess up the recording for the audio when I was doing this live. So let me know in the comment section what you guys think. Do you prefer me doing a post-com style like how I'm doing it in this video, or do you prefer me doing it live so you can actually hear my thoughts live and hear my strategies live as I'm racing? I do prefer the latter because I do like basically giving you guys as much information as possible and helping you guys throughout my own races as well by giving you my live thoughts and my live strategies. But getting into the actual race now, you can see we made a dive on Mick Schumacher, and we had to slow down the car just a little bit because I didn't want to send it on my own teammate again. If you did watch the previous episode, you would know why I don't want to send it on my teammate. And yeah, I am not using any flashbacks in this My Team career mode, so if I do get wing damage, if I do lose a wheel and end up having to retire, that is pretty much it. You know, we don't get any second chances, so I definitely have to take this a lot more careful than I usually would when playing you know, just offline, because usually I would absolutely send it without the care of the world. If I mess up, I could always use a flashback, but in this, we're not using any flashbacks. So following our teammate there, and as we skip all the way on to lap 8, because really and truly nothing happened for the first good couple of laps. You can see now that the soft tyre runners have gone into the pits, and I think some of them are going for the 2-stop, so that'll be pretty interesting to see if we can make up any positions on them. But yeah, this was a long battle between me and Giovinazzi this race. It was really just about keeping Giovinazzi behind us. And in my previous video that I did on Monday, at the time of recording this, I believe this video will come out on Wednesday. I'm recording this on Tuesday, so yesterday I did release a video of a social race with WOR where something very similar happened in that race to this race, and it's all really about defending as well as I can. So if you want to learn how to defend a little bit better during your My Team races, during your league races, then make sure to go and watch that video after you finish watching this video as well. But as I said, at this point now, we're really just trying to keep Giovinazzi behind us. He's probably going to be our main rival during this race, and yeah, we just want to be as far ahead as him as we possibly can. We're not going to catch up to Sergio Perez and get in that DRS that he's got going on with Yuki Tsunoda, so we've really just got to use our own race pace here, manage our ERS effectively, and go from there. So I'm not exactly sure when we're going to try and go into the pits. I believe it's around lap 15 that we're going to try and go into the pits, and then have an 18 lap stint on the hard compound tyres. As you can see now, going up to turn 1, Giovinazzi is closing in, have that DRS, and yeah, we still managed to keep ahead of him just about. And then moving on to lap 10, well, the end of lap 10 now, you can see Giovinazzi, he's 4 tenths behind us, and we don't have DRS on Norris ahead of us. So yeah, we're going to have to use our ERS here to try and make sure that Giovinazzi doesn't get past us. You can see I'm taking the defensive line. Giovinazzi, he looks on the outside, and we managed to do just about enough to keep ahead of him on this lap. And just like I did in the WOR social race, literally you just want to focus on the exits of the final corner, especially at Spain. the second DRS zone going off of turn 9, that DRS zone isn't really long enough, and it's a flat out, well, almost flat out corner. So as long as you can get a decent line through turn 9, you're pretty much not going to lose the position. Whereas with the final chicane, if you get a bad exit and the person behind you has DRS, it's a long straight, so they have a long time to be able to catch you up with that DRS to get you going into turn 1. So that final chicane is the most crucial part of the lap. As long as we can get a good exit from there, we should be able to keep in front of Giovinazzi for the rest of the lap, and that's exactly what we end up doing. We end up focusing on that final corner and getting the best exit we can. We move all the way to lap 16 now. We've already pitted for the hard compound of tyres, and you can see now that we're in P15, and I do believe that some of the soft tyre runners are doing a 2-stop strategy, so there will be some people that we will overtake just based on strategy alone. However, right now, for the most part, we've really got to focus on trying to overtake people on track, if we can even catch up to Yuki, who is almost 10 seconds down the road. But yeah, you can see now, Giovinazzi, lap 17, try to get the best exit we can. I believe we're about 8 tenths ahead of him at this point, so we've got no worries in terms of him actually catching us on this lap. We've just got to focus on getting a good rest of the lap, and then focusing again on that final corner, which now we're moving on to, I believe this is turn 7? Turn 8? I'm pretty sure this is turn 7, and this little kink here counts as turn 8. Turn 7 is one of the hardest corners on this track. People think that turn 9 is difficult. Yeah, it is, because it's blind, but turn 7 is, in my personal opinion, the hardest corner on the track, because it's so easy to lose the rear end of the car. It doesn't matter what setup you've got, you can easily lose the rear of the car there. But yeah, the final sector now, just want to focus on, you know, just getting as much grip as we can from the tires. The final sector is really big on the mechanical grip, and since we are using the hard compounds right now, that means we've got the least amount of mechanical grip that we will have in this race. So you just got to focus on being smooth with the throttle. I will be making a traction control tutorial fairly soon, so that if you guys are struggling with traction control, especially on the hard compound tires, then you'll be able to learn how to smoothly apply the throttle, and that will obviously help you big time, especially on tracks like Spain, where you need to get that big exit coming off of the final corner. And as we move on to lap 23 now, you can see that Lando Norris has actually retired from this session, so that's going to be an extra position that we gain, because Lando Norris is ahead of us right now. So we're going to be in P13, which isn't necessarily that great, but I mean, you want to be as far up the field as you possibly can. If there's any more retirements, then that will give us a big opportunity to be able to fight for some points. So you always want to be as far up within, you know, the latter half of the top 10 that you possibly can, especially in these early stages of the My Team career where your car isn't really the best. And that's actually one thing I noticed when I was looking at some of the statistics on the back end, you know, going back to HQ. Your My Team car actually starts out fairly decent compared to what your My Team's car started out in F1 2020 from my memory. In F1 2020, your My Team car was basically the worst car on the grid, but I believe, depending on maybe the engine you choose, I believe our car was either the second or the third worst car, so that was pretty interesting. It did give us a little bit of an extra start compared to Williams and Haas, which I believe are the teams that our car is already better than. But moving on to the actual race now, I'm getting sidetracked. Giovinazzi, he's only a tenth behind us. He does go down the inside, so we do have to leave the space, because I don't exactly know how much of his car he's got on the inside, and I didn't want to take him out, so I had to leave the room. But luckily we managed to do just enough, and then moving on to lap 26, we do the same thing here, just trying to get the best exit we can. Giovinazzi, he's only 4 tenths behind us now, and with that DRS, yeah, it's going to be pretty difficult to keep him behind. You can see he moves on the outside, we take the defensive line, but he makes it to the corner in P13, I believe. Yeah, P13, so he does get ahead of us, and we're now back in 14th place, and we've got Pierre Gasly on the medium compound of tyres behind us as well, so he's going to have more mechanical grip around the lap at the moment, because he is on the softer compound of tyres. So it's going to be very difficult to keep Gasly behind. We're going to have to do our best, especially if we want to potentially get back at Giovinazzi. Which, moving on to lap 28 now, you can see that Giovinazzi, he's way ahead of us now outside of DRS. There's nothing we can do to defend Gasly, and now Gasly is also ahead of us, so we're now down to P15. So we've lost 2 positions, which I was a little bit disappointed by, but there's not really much we can do because we didn't have DRS, and Gasly and Giovinazzi were just generally quicker than us at that time. And now we've got Mick Schumacher, who I would say at this moment of time, early stages on, was probably going to be our main rival. So as long as we could stay ahead of Mick Schumacher, I was relatively okay with the result. And moving on to lap 29 now, you can see that Gasly and Giovinazzi, they're going side by side, and they were actually going side by side for a long time before this as well. And yeah, you can see that they're still going side by side through turn 4, and going up to turn 5 now, you can see they're still side by side. So this is an insane battle, and I wanted to try and keep as close to them as I possibly can, just in case one of them made a mistake and we can pounce on that opportunity. And then moving on to turn 7 now, you can see there's a little bit of contact, and Giovinazzi ends up getting ahead. Gasly ends up wielding the position to Giovinazzi, and that was a pretty good battle to see from the AI. Once again, the AI being a lot more aggressive in this year's game, and it's really fun to see as we actually dive down the inside of Gasly ourselves, taking the opportunity of the little bit of contact that him and Giovinazzi had. And now we're inside the DRS of Giovinazzi, so as long as we can have a decent final sector here, we could potentially actually get the move on Giovinazzi as well. But once again, you know, it's all about the mechanical grip and getting the most out of your tires through this final sector, and I'm already pretty bad at the final sector of Spain. It's probably arguably one of my worst sectors on the calendar in terms of my own personal abilities around this. So being on the hard compound tires, it was difficult, but we did manage to get inside the DRS luckily. And then moving on to lap 32 now, you can see we've got blue flags, and that's actually because the race leader Lewis Hamilton is about to lap us. And since we're on lap 32 now, if we can't get past Lewis Hamilton before the end of the lap, then that pretty much means that it's going to be over for us once we cross the line. So yeah, Giovinazzi, he's also looking to leave a little bit of space here. I thought this would be the perfect opportunity to get ahead of Giovinazzi. We tried to go for the send, but Giovinazzi does cover it very well. And as we move on to the final sector of this race now, yeah, you know, it's very difficult to overtake on the final sector. The person ahead of you basically has to make a colossal mistake in order for you to make an overtake here, just because of how tight and technical it is. It's very slow speed corners, you have to get that grip, and sadly we just don't get it. Giovinazzi doesn't really make a mistake, so we come off the final corner, Lewis Hamilton ends up winning, and we come home in P15.
Another Spanish Grand Prix is over, and what a special race it was. Talk to me, Ants. What was it that set them apart from the competition today?
Well, this was a real team victory. They put together a solid strategy today that appeared well suited to the conditions out on track. The driver did everything that was expected of them in the moment to really execute the team's plan to perfection. A shining example of how F1 really is a team sport.
Mercedes are on top form once again after an excellent race weekend. It's great to see them up on that podium once again.
So yeah, as you can see, Lewis Hamilton ends up winning the Spanish Grand Prix with Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez rounding off the podiums. And then we've got Valtteri Bottas, Sebastian Vettel, Lance Stroll, Daniel Ricciardo, Esteban Ocon, Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc, who ends up rounding off the top 10. And then after that, I believe you have Alonso, Tsunoda, Giovinazzi. Then you have myself. I believe it was Mick Schumacher who came behind me. And then it was my teammate Robert Schwartzman. And I can't really see right now because my the actual video is going a little bit too slow for what I'm going here. But yeah, as you can see, Mick Schumacher was behind us. Pierre Gasly ended up actually losing a good couple of positions as well, actually. And then it was Robert Schwartzman, Nicholas Latifi, Nikita Mazepin, and George Russell, Kimi Räikkönen, and then Lando Norris being the only retirement at the Spanish GP. So yeah, for the championship standings now, Mercedes are ahead of Red Bull and Aston Martin. There's a 27-point gap, I believe, to Mercedes from Red Bull, and then ourselves, we've got 0 points. However, we are in 9th place as we've had the better results compared to Williams and Haas. But yeah, moving on now, I was thinking about making an upgrade to one of my facilities. I can't make it to my aerodynamic facility, but I can make an upgrade to one of my other facilities. So make sure to comment down below on which faculty you want me to actually upgrade, and we can do that in the next episode. And we can also look at some of the upgrades and see if there's any more upgrades that we can make to the car as well. But this is going to be it for today's My Team Career Mode episode. If you did enjoy it, make sure to smash that like button, make sure to smash that subscribe button if you're new and you want to see more My Team content, and I'll catch you guys in my next video.